right, Zels, we're inside again today. It's 35 degrees. The aircon is downstairs. Some dick has got the angle grinder out. So if the dogs aren't barking, if the wind's not blowing up here in Devil's Peak, some oak decides on a Wednesday morning, time to angle grind. So that's why we're inside. If you see Zels sweating profusely, that's why. If you see me sweating, I'm just a sweater. Show the Lions some love. That's the comments I get on X, the comments we get in the YouTube channel, and the death threats I get as well. Show the Lions some love. So we're going to start with the Lions, your favorite team.
Oh, I love the Lions, mate. I love the Lions.
You kind of put the curse on them when you wore their jersey earlier this season, but you wore that Spider.
It was the Spider-Man.
The Spider-Man jersey from the Marvel
I'm waiting for them
weekend.
to send me the official jersey. I still haven't got one. So.
Okay. Lions are chasing a top 8 for the first time in the competition's history. And that's quite crazy to think that they've never made a top 8. They're one of those teams that even from the outset have always traveled well up north. Even when they've lost games, they haven't lost by a hell of a lot. They were one of the first teams that went to Dublin and actually troubled Leinster. They went onto those 4G pictures and they look good. They had that fabulous win against Connacht a couple of seasons ago, where your mate kind of decapitated a oak, who got up straight away and played on.
Yeah.
But the Lions, Cardiff, is there going to be more woe for the Welsh?
There is going to be more woe for the Welsh. Cardiff have had, by their standards, a very good season. They're 6 on the log. Lions are 2 places back, and they're coming for them in the Welsh capital. I think the Lions are going to win on Friday night. 9:30 kickoff. And I think they're going to get their tour off to a good start. The Lions are chasing Champions Cup credentials. They want to finish in the top 8. Not only do they want to qualify for the playoffs, but they want to be seen as a Champions Cup team for next season. And the top 8 finish is the way to do that. What is so funny? I've got chocolate on my mustache.
No, it's the Lions and Champions Cup.
That's happening,
mate. Will the Challenge Cup ever be the same without the Lions?
Mate, no.
Huh?
No.
No, what made me laugh is when you said Cardiff had a good season, they are 6th. And I thought, what is it about these Welsh teams that like to be 6th? Cardiff are 6th, Wales are 6th. So, yeah, that got me laughing. I saw how excited you got about the fact that Cardiff was 6th.
Yeah.
So I played for Wales and we ended 6th. I played for Cardiff. We are 6th.
I think Cardiff were like 2nd on the log earlier on in the season. They've had a really good season by their standards. But yeah,
they were all in the top there when they were playing their local derbies again.
Alphabetically.
They've started to play other teams from other countries. Not so lucky. Yeah, I mean, coming back from 17 in a row, not winning a game in the Six Nations, 68-14 to the old foe England, just at the lowest they've ever been in Welsh rugby. How do these Welsh teams now get up this weekend for Vodacom United Rugby Championship games? And 2 of their teams are playing the Lions, who can put any team away on their day, and the Stormers, and we'll get to them just now, the DHL Stormers, who are primed for a very good showing overseas. I mean, it's not like our boys are going to Dublin, to Connacht, to Munster, to Limerick, to Belfast. They are going to Cardiff. The Stormers are going off to Swansea to play Scarlets. And the Lions, led by Morne van der Berg at 9, they are in to play against Cardiff. How do these Welsh Oaks actually get up for it?
I think very easily, because generally what we're saying is that whoever's in the Welsh squad right now isn't getting the job done. And I think there's a bunch of guys who haven't made the test squad, aren't on the test radar, who feel like this is a grand opportunity for them to put their hands up and show what they can do. And I suppose if the 4 Welsh regions are, stand up and deliver some results in the URC, it's kind of a message to the WRU that we should be in contention to be featuring in the Six Nations too. So I don't think they'll be short for motivation. I think the belief might not be there. So in tight games and when they face adversity and the scores are tight and it comes down to you having to close it out, maybe they won't have that edge that a winning team would have. But I certainly think they'll be motivated to do very well this weekend. And South African teams travelling to Wales is a great opportunity to take advantage of the travel factor against SA teams, some of whom have to think about Challenge Cup permutations going forward. So I think they're primed to have a statement weekend. I just don't think they're going to get it right.
If you look at the Lions, and you do love the Lions, I mean, you've always been backing them. I see there's a very slanted bias towards the Lions on SA Rugby magazine. I haven't written in about it yet. I've tried to counter that with a very slanted
Subtle
Bulls
storms.
bias.
Oh, I see. Okay.
No, Bulls.
Yeah,
Bulls,
obviously.
Bulls bias, yeah. Not a Sharks bias, but a Bulls bias, because the Sharks don't need bias, they just win. Okay?
Yeah.
And, but they have got some wonderful individual players. So you look at Morne van den Berg at 9, who's really played well. Horn at fullback. They made their test debuts last year. They seem to have grown in terms of their maturity as players. Henke van Wyk, if he can just get through a season consistently without injury, he's just a fantastic talent. And then the giant in the front row, you love him. Spell his name.
Tlabakanye.
Spell it.
Ntlabaka.
Beast. Beast. No, he's
Feast mode. I love
apparently very impressive at the Backline camp. His stats have been amazing for the best part of the season. It's not a case of if he plays for Springboks, he's going to play for the Springboks. Yep. So it's great to see him there. He's a charismatic character as well. Kind of gives that team a little bit of gees, a little personality. And then their back row. If you look at the likes of Fenton, you look at Franco Horn,
JC Pretorius. Renzo's coming through.
Yeah, who's the Currie Cup Player of the Year at the SA Awards last week. They've got some really good players.
They're just a great story the whole way through that team. You know, it's for somebody who enjoys underdogs, they're the perfect sort of poster boy team for that, because it's a bunch of guys that are really, really good players who, for whatever reason, their careers, they've got their timing wrong and they've been overlooked. I mean, you think of a guy like Edwin van der Merwe, absolutely fantastic finishers, had to wait very deep into his career to get his box shot, took it with both hands and scored some great tries and is a fabulous player. So Ed was a guy who epitomizes what I'm talking about. There's some fantastic players at the Lions who, for whatever reason, are now having to fight for their sort of status in South African rugby. And you've got to root for a team like that who's got to overcome the odds, you know. And they're not in the sexy Galacticos. They're at Ellis Park with fewer resources and punching above their weight.
Yeah, you just think, I know it's through sponsorships and kind of they got to use, I always call it Ellis Park as a stadium, iconic. Nothing better than Ellis Park packed 62,000 when the All Blacks play the Springboks. Yeah. That should happen once every year, every 2 years, okay? Yeah. But you'd think if they were playing at a smaller stadium that took 15,000 or 10,000, geez, they'd be impossible to beat up north for any team that was going there, because you're packing 15,000 into a stadium that should take 10 or 12.
Yeah.
It's intimidating. You put 30,000 in a 60,000 seater, it kind of looks like no one's there.
Totally. I think they played a Currie Cup match at a school last season. I can't remember what the circumstances were, but it was fantastic. The vibe was amazing. It was electric.
The school side win.
They lost by 1 point.
Did Helpmacar do them? The only home defeat came at Willemse Helpmacar.
But you're right.
We love you guys. We love the Lions. Okay.
Smaller venue would 100% be better for them, because it is quite cavernous. You play in this giant stadium with very few people in it, or 15,000 people. It doesn't feel like that. It feels like there's 10 people there.
Look, and they've got this great schools nursery as well, and Die Witbulle Monument, Monas.
Yeah.
And I think Henke van Wyk is another product of there. Jacques Fourie, one of the great outside centres, although famously remembered for coming on as a win against the British and Irish Lions and scoring that incredible try in the second test win, Jonah Lomelike against the Lions, set us up for Morne Stein's inevitable penalty on the 81st minute. Jacques Fourie, defensive read, one of the best centres to have played. He played in the era, for those who don't know, and apparently there's quite a few out there who don't know. He's played in the era of Jean de Villiers and Jacques Fourie. They're one of the great Bok midfield combinations. Almosi, he started as an under-20 fullback. He's made his debut for the Lions when he was 19 as a fullback. Fearless, one of the great characters in the game, one of the nicest guys. He's been involved with the Lions for the last couple of years after a big stint in Japan. And great to see the passion that he's also brought with Ricardo Loubser there, obviously with Cash leading the way. They are a popular team. They're a likable team. But I've always just found they're a team that the minute you start backing them, they drop a game to the most odd team.
Yeah.
Like they'll lose at home to Zebre. You know, and it's like, how?
Yeah.
And but surely they're gonna have too much for Cardiff.
I think they will have to. I think it's going to be a close run thing, but I think they'll have too much for Cardiff. I think the Lions are on the upward trajectory, and I think they've got their eyes set, like I said, on that Champions Cup prize. So I think they're going to be good for the win this week.
Okay, and then chatting to to Van der Merwe, Edward Van der Merwe,
Yeah.
as not Edward van Aarde, and not Edwin van der Merwe, Edward van der Merwe. Played one test against Wales, Wembley, player of the match, electric pace. A lad from Cape Town, played for Province, played for the Stormers, went to the Lions. Has been sensational whenever he's played, had a few injury issues. But I did say to him, you seem to reserve your best for when you play the Stormers. And he's like, that's the one I want.
That's where he's from, yeah.
Yeah, and I've heard that the matchups between the winners from Cape Town and when Edward plays would make for great TV if they put those mics on.
Oh, yeah, I can imagine some of the banter.
Banter is amazing. And
well, he's from Kylemore, and I think so is Herschel, so there's a deep connection.
And I think there's a lot of questions asked about families there, and a lot of statements made about family. A lot of love shown on the field, and then obviously the natural embrace afterwards. But when he plays against any team from the Cape, whoever's playing and they win, it's feisty and it's fun to watch. And he's definitely, fitness permitting, he will be in the Bok mix again this season to add to that test match of his. He was just so good when he played. And if you look again at the depth that we've got on the wing, Mapimpi, who's like kind of went and found another lease of life. He looks like he's 19 again, playing like he's 19. It's wonderful to see. He signed a 2-year contract extension at the Sharks, which will take him to the age of 36, but in such incredible physical condition. Seems to have got his confidence back. You've got him on the wings. You've got, when I say on the wings, on the outer, you've got a guy like Van der Merwe on the outer. And they're not even the starting winners when you've got a Cheslin Colby and you've got a Kurtley Arendse as an example, and a guy like Ethan Hooker who can play on the wing. Sebastian de Klerk is a good winner. We are very, very fortunate at the moment to be blessed with some very, very good winners. And but I'd like to see him going for 2 or 3 tries on Friday night.
Oh, mate, that'd be absolutely brilliant. And I think that goes for the whole squad. You talk about Krappi there at number 9. Marius Lowe's on his way out of the lines. I'm sure you want to sign off with some great results and potentially some playoff wins. We mentioned in Klabakanye at the top, the awesome back row. I'm a big Renzo Duplessis fan. I'm a believer. I think he's going to do good things in time. And
were you surprised that he was that he got Player of the Year in the Currie Cup?
No, I wasn't at all. I thought he was definitely stand out there. And open side flankers like that, real fetchers that play to the ball and get in deep over the breakdown, are rare. We used to produce those guys all the time. Corne Krikke, Hendrik Gerber back in the day was another one of those guys. Obviously, Kwache, Heinrich Brousseau. But we don't really, our open sides are almost playing more of a linking role now. So finding a guy who's really sticking his head in there like Brunnis is quite tough. And I think Renzo's in that kind of mold. So I think that makes him very valuable to us.
And talking about Brunnis, I mean, like we spoke about it earlier in the week on our Monday show. We enjoyed his company for the best part of 2 hours at the awards. And just like a kid in a candy store, rejuvenated. Rassie telling him you're still in the Bok mix at 38. It doesn't matter. You're playing well enough. For him to have come back from that 9-month injury to be playing the kind of rugby he is, just the value adds in terms of a leadership role for the Stormers and for South African rugby. And I mean, it's a story you just can't tell enough. The guy goes to France, plays for 8 years. All his kids are born there. Seen as one of those like diehard Province Stormers guys. The belief of the public, not quite good enough to make it again. Was he big enough to fit the South African mold of a loose forward? Yeah, he started at hooker. We'll just dismiss that. He comes back to basically see out his career, play a few games for Province, maybe go into the academy or into some form of institute coaching. Next moment, he's playing for the Stormers captain, then winning the URC kind of thing, and getting his Springbok call-up, and then plays as a hooker in the World Cup final, comes on after 2.5 minutes.
No, mate.
Plays for 78 minutes after that, and the last 3 minutes of the World Cup final, 12-11 against the All Blacks, he captains the Springboks. Then his knee goes, he's out for 9 months, comes back and has a magnificent comeback match, and was so influential in the Stormers beating the Bulls a couple of weeks ago at Loftus. And just looking that grin on his face, I was watching him as well. He's just nursing a nice, polite glass of wine, not doing justice to the name Brunnis. And he said, I got a big session in the morning. We got a big tour overseas.
Yeah.
So, wow, to see that enthusiasm And to see a guy like Renzo come into that Bok alignment camp and get to meet the likes of Deon for the first time.
Big time.
And kind of how their energy feeds off each other.
Massive.
But
I think with Brunnes, if you were building the ultimate Springbok, maybe between Kwagga and Brunnes, there's two guys you would definitely look at for the heart of a Bok. Like those guys, they're ticker, massive, never say die, never quit.
Well, I mean, you talk about that selection again and that combination. I mean, that's the genius of a Rassie Erasmus as a selector. So, yes, things fell for him. You know, he would often admit if that kick had gone over from Geordie Barrett or they had lost 13-12, people would have said everything was potentially a disaster, even though it wasn't.
True.
Because the margins are so fine at that level. But Kwagga Smith was the Nelly man always of South African rugby. Was he a 7 specialist? Was he just good enough for Super Rugby? His game wouldn't necessarily fit Test rugby as such. Under the Rassie Erasmus and Jacques Nienhaber kind of 8 years, he has just flourished, kind of made a name for himself, gone past 50 Test caps. So a guy like him and a guy like Brunnes, who stereotypically would not have been in a box setup, not in a mix. They were two of our stars at the Rugby World Cup and so influential in the Rugby World Cup final.
And I think that's what makes Rassie and Jacques so special as a combination, is they have breathed life into multiple careers. There's a ton of guys who we would probably never have seen play successive test matches for the Boks, who've become integral stalwarts to the success of that team. And I think that's what separates a guy like Rassie potentially from some of the other coaches, is that we didn't know he was going to the bomb squad. When he originally picked Kwagga and when he was moving forward with Kwagga in his plans, it was based on where this team was going. And so that's a piece that fits perfectly in. When you only have two backs on the bench and a guy who's versatile enough to cover a third back position but is a forward, there's a genius in that, right? And I think it's the same with Jacques and the out in defense, the rush up and in defense that he basically invented. Breathed life into all the little outside backs who were getting run over in one-on-one tackles under the old sort of shift defense. Jacques breathed life into those careers. And so I think that's the innovation that has made South African rugby strong and has brought the best out of our talent pool.
But if you look at a guy like Brunnes, I mean, Manny's correct in that he could go to the next World Cup. He could go there as a 41-year-old. They do say that 40 is the new 30, but I mean, that would
Who's
be...
they, mate? The 50-olds.
Brunnes. And I concurred. I said, that's right, mate. That's right. You go there, okay?
Yeah.
But, yeah, just to hear him talk, and you think that this is a guy that, you know, could have just walked away from it all in Paris and said, it doesn't get better than this. And he's out there on the field, slogging it out. He's in Swansea this week. He's in Swansea. And he had to go via Cardiff to get there. I don't know what the temperature is going to be like. It's not going to be as bad as it's been, but it's 34 degrees in Cape Town today.
Wow.
Brunnes stays out in the beautiful Durbanville near the golf course where I grew up as well. He was mowing his lawn last week this time. Now he's out in Swansea and he's there with enthusiasm as his 40-year-old Brock Harris. So we talk about what Rassie's done for the likes of Deon Fourie. But by his own admission, Deon Fourie says that guy, John Dobson in Cape Town, he says that guy reinvented his career. When he came back, he immediately saw what this guy had learned for 8 years in France, and it wasn't just his French, how he had matured as a player, his versatility and his leadership. And kind of he said, like, you haven't come here to play out a season in Western Province and filling for us at the Stormers. You're basically going to be the leader of my pack in that sense.
Yeah.
And with the Stormers, when you had a Kitsy there, a Francois Haber who's still there, a Samuel Murat coming through, a Deon Fourie, it's not so much as who captains the side, who leads them on the field. It's what they do as a collective. And Deon Fourie, massive leadership for the Stormers, and going to be crucial to their 2-match tour. It's the Scarlets, and then it's Ulster in Belfast next weekend, and then they're back for 4 home matches. Incredibly, they haven't got to play 4 home matches at the DHL Stadium this year yet.
Jeez.
In succession.
Crazy.
So important that they get 1 out of 2 wins. I think they're good enough to get 2 out of 2 wins. We do believe that the Lions will win. We're hoping that the Lions will win.
The Lions will win. 25-22.
25-22. You know, this guy, if you do put a flutter on and do it responsibly, okay? Because gambling is only for 18 years and older. Is that what they say?
I think that is the rule.
Yeah. So if you do put a flutter on it, never listen to really what I have to say when it comes to scores. Only when Scotland are playing, because you know they're going to go down. Wales, you know they're going to go down. But when it comes to club rugby, when it comes to the Vodacom United Rugby Championship, it comes to the Investec Champions Cup, the EPCR Challenge Cup, old Zels, my mate over there, has been right more than he's been wrong. And no one picked La Rochelle for the double. He did at a time where everyone was in love with Leinster and they were the go-to team. He said, no, the game starts up front. Look at that La Rochelle pack and look what's coming off their bench. They kind of had an unintentional 6-2. They could have been a 7-1, okay? So I'm surprised you're giving Cardiff 22 points, though.
Yeah, no, I think, look, Cardiff can play some rugby, and I think one thing the Welsh teams can do is attack. So Stormers are welcoming back the Lions are welcoming back Henko and Kewen. And I think I wouldn't say they'll be ring rust, but I think this team on tour in the tour opener, maybe there's a few holes and Cardiff get through. So I think it'll be close. I think Cardiff are actually favourites to win the game, but I'm going to give it to the Lions by 3.
How are Cardiff favourites to win the game?
Right. History.
Captain Morgan, Jack Morgan, is he there? Does he play for Cardiff?
Is he a Cardiff?
Oh!
Maybe.
Hey, Stato? Hey? What did the legendary Scott Gibbs always say? Fail to prepare to fail. Know your stats. So I think he's gone back to Cardiff. I think he started somewhere else at the Scarlets, and I think went. But a good player. Eh?
Fantastic.
One of those guys that
fabulous
wooden spoon. I don't think any oak made more tackles than him. Kind of over the ball, strong. I reckon he will be in the British and Irish Lions squad.
Has to be.
Which is going to be a big talking point over the next few weeks. Who makes it? Who doesn't? Andy Farrell. He's got some decisions to make, because obviously he's got his Irish guys that he coached, has been involved in for as an assistant with Joe Smith, then as the head coach. They play for him. He's going to be loyal. He's going to trust them, but a lot of them not in form at the moment, and that's the key of a Lions squad. It's hits and miss. It's can you galvanise and get 23 players to play that Test match from the 4 different home unions that actually complement each other, or do you go with like Woodward went with an English heavy. Gatlin initially went with an Welsh heavy because they knew those players. And I'm expecting he will go with an Irish heavy squad. But Jack Morgan, he's a quality player. He would make any team in the URC.
Yeah.
And Wales just need 15 of him, unfortunately.
22.
At the moment, they don't have that. I have the Lions to win. And I want them to win. Ik wil heel hy Lou met brol. Ek wil hy Lulu op sien. 28-20. 28-20 vir die Lions teen Cardiff.
Wow.
Do you know what I just said, man?
28-20.
Well done. Okay, so 28-20 to the Lions. Zels got 25-22 to the Lions. They start the South African weekend with a win. We're going to get to all the results, but I'm going for a 4 from 4. 2 abroad and 2 at home. I've got South African teams to win all 4. And just to remind people, there's a URC back on the go, and South Africa's going to take it.
Yes. Jack Morgan plays for Ospreys, by the way.
He plays for
Started
the
at
Ospreys.
Scarlets, like you said, but is at Ospreys.
Ospreys, so he's not even playing for Cardiff. There! It's got to be a win.
3 points.
I love it. I love it that you got your phone here and you can sort these things out. And that wasn't in the script, was it?
No.
Act like we didn't know where he played.
We had no idea.
I didn't know he played for the Wales. So he plays for Ospreys, eh? So the Stormers also don't have to deal with him on the weekend. 12 o'clock. Bong. There goes the noon gun. Okay, so the Stormers, they play at the same time
as the Bulls.
Apparently, according to your schedule, I hope it's right, 5 o'clock South African time, kickoff on Saturday.
Correct.
I'm sure the weather's going to be a bit warmer up north for the Bulls, who entertain Leinster. And Leinster sent their C team one year. They took 60. They sent their A team. They lost. They sent in apparently their B team, minus 16 internationals. And I can't see Leinster beating the Bulls.
No, they will not beat the Bulls.
Not at 5 o'clock.
I love that, mate. Listen, the Bulls are going to win this one. Leinster and the Highveld and the travel factor, missing key players. I think definitely I expect the Bulls to win this one. As much as the Bulls are also missing some players, it doesn't look like Cam Honeycomb's going to be in the mix again this week. So
He's been rested.
I don't know what it is, mate, but he's not there.
He's growing.
He's growing into a great player.
no, what's that? It's his groin, eh?
Yeah. So
groin and head are two you can't and lower back. you can't really
long
kind of
list.
get a second opinion on that.
True.
You've just got to trust
Trust
that.
the player that-
Trust the player. It's when he's stretching, it says, it's not feeling so
Doesn't
good.
feel good.
Doesn't feel so good. Not today. Maybe he's just building to the playoffs. Top of mind. Rassie looks and says, look at that guy
This is a
play.
golden opportunity for the Bulls to try some of these guys that I've been saying who I think deserve a shot and could definitely change the vibe up there in the Bulls.
And you just want to see a Gumidi get a lot of game time.
Dilo Gumidi, mate. He needs a couple of games to warm up, but once
He
that
needs
boy
to
gets
leave
going,
the Bulls,
he is
mate.
power.
He needs to leave the Bulls and go to a club
where?
to go to a club that will pick him.
No, he's going to get picked, and he's going to do great things up there, mate. He's going to be the mayor of Pretoria one of these
No,
days.
he's a good player, and he
Fabulous
left the
player.
Sharks because there wasn't much game time for him.
Yeah.
And he's gone to the Bulls. There's not much game time for him. I don't think he would like to be in the Lions. Hey, all I can say is, Cape Town is calling. Cape Town, welcome to Kaapstad. Welcome to Kaapstad.
What was in that coat, mate?
I had a chat with Sia Khaleesi at the awards, and I'm like, come on, bro, we need you back. You got to come to Cape Town. And he's loving life at the Sharks. He's putting his body on the line there. He's got his mate Scurry and Tambeni there. He's going to be playing in the
love that.
EPCR game.
Those two, mate.
He can't play in the URC,
Yeah.
Sharks and the Stormers. Obviously, they vibe well in the boardroom. They've agreed to him to be on loan, get Scurry some game time, which means Scurry comes back to Cape Town, ready for the playoffs. And still, they reckon one of the strongest scrummaging hookers in the competition.
Fabulous scrummager.
That guy's paced himself well as Scurry, and that's just great for any team setup. And I love that kind of picture of him, Sia, and Evan. It looked like a Stormers practice. Why are you guys wearing Hollywood bed shirts? But yeah, speaking to Sia as well, I was just saying to him, like, just loving you playing 8. And he says, yeah, he's loving it as well. And I said, we're going to see you at 8 at the box. He said, I don't know if I'm big enough or strong enough to play at 8
What?
at the box. But
Has he heard of Kwagga Smith?
exactly. I said, like, I think you're big enough and strong enough. But he's seen it. I think he has a specific role with the box. He knows what Rassie wants from him, but he's loving the balance to his game that playing 8 brings him for the Sharks. And obviously not as intense as Test match rugger. And what we do get to see at the Sharks a lot more from Sia that you don't see at Test level because of the way he plays and the kind of position he's playing is you get to see a lot more of him with ball in hand. And see how skilled he is in his offloading
And
game.
athletic, yeah.
And athletic he is because when you look at him at Test level, unless he's out in the wide winds, and this is a guy that's taking it up. He's normally over the ball. He's at the bottom of a ruck and he's making some big hits.
Yeah, big time.
So yeah, I mean, just and you talk again about the flanker and the kind of flank disposals that we have, the flankers at our disposal that we
Yes,
have.
the options we have.
Tongue-tied there. Must be the Coca-Cola. And that age just is just no bearing when there's enthusiasm, when there's enjoyment. It's like if you love going to an office, it's no issue to get up at 6 in the morning.
No.
It's when you can't stand going over the hill. It's like, do you want to make it to that office? No. So what I'm picking up, and it's just great to experience, is these senior players, there's no World Cup hangover from 2023. It's like that really has been parked. And they got through there with 11 wins and 2 one-point defeats. Team of the year, the Springboks. And this is like a new chapter that started. They want to be part of it in whatever guise.
Yeah, no, spot on, 100%. I think Sia deserves a lot of credit for his longevity. I mean, the guy's a perennial player. In every single season, he's available and he goes. So he's obviously looking after his body off the field. And aside from his leadership factor and all that sort of stuff, the ability of that guy to just keep going and keep contributing season in, season out is superb. We did get here, though, by talking about the URC. The Bulls are playing this week. They've got Leinster in town, matey. Give me a prediction.
The Bulls will win.
Thanks.
Hulle gaan wen zelfs. En hulle gaan goed wen.
This is odd games.
Hulle gaan goed wen. Want Leinster wen nie in Loftus nie. They have lost there on several occasions.
Yes.
No, the Bulls will win. I'm going to ask you, before I give my, they're going to win, I'll tell you by how much. Let's check into the glass ball. But the Bulls have been weird this season. That loss against Northampton, the loss against the Sharks,
Schizophrenic, some might say.
the loss against the Stormers, games that they've run out into big leads and then hanging on at the end. And they've reminded me of someone that just looks like at times they're getting bored. Like if you take the cricket analogy, guy goes to bat, races to 30, and then all of a sudden gets out to a crap shot, or then just goes into his shell, just looks awkward in that. It's like they get on a roll and then something just goes wrong. So we've spoken about it for 2 seasons. You walk out at that Loftus tunnel and it says it is about altitude, not just attitude. And they give the meters 1,310 or whatever the case would be above sea level. But every team that seems to have come there, win or lose, has ended the stronger. And we look at Glasgow in last year's final. That last 25 minutes, there was only one team in it. It was the guys who had traveled across the world to come play at the Highveld. Is there a condition issue as an observer that you see? Is there something that's not quite right in that Bulls setup when you see the platform they get from the Wilco Lows of the world, Steenekamp, Akker and Grobbies, the quality of forwards that they've got, and then into those back, because they've got great players regardless of who's injured. They've got good depth.
I think the altitude factor does play a part. But, and I know I've just dragged this conversation back to the Bulls, and now I'm going to go back to the Boks. But they remind me of the Boks shortly after readmission, the 90s, even the early 2000s, where the Boks were known traditionally to be a team that comes out and just absolutely obliterates you in the first 25, 30 minutes. And if they don't win it there, then they're in trouble. You know, the Boks would come out, just play at a high pace, massive intensity, kick the front door down, smash mouth rugby, very physical. And most teams, well, many teams couldn't put up with that. And so the kind of dam wall burst and they built up enough of a lead that it didn't really matter how the rest of the game went. But if you could survive that onslaught, then the Boks were beatable. And in a way, the Bulls are like that. They come out with this massive intensity. Ulrich Loh makes 407 carries in the first 40 minutes. It's massively confrontational and physical. But if it doesn't do the business, if the ref isn't on their side, in the sense that the calls go their way and they get set-piece territory and convert that into tries and points, then they've kind of fired their shot. They're almost like a musket in a way. They've fired their shot and they've missed, and now what? They've got to try and hit you over the head with the butt of the rifle. So the Bulls need to be, I think, a little bit smarter in the way that they play. I've spoken before about how that pack doesn't always complement the way their backs run the ball, and I think that maybe makes the Highveld and altitude factor count against them, because this heavy-handed pack is trying to keep up with this electric backline at altitude, and in a way they're running themselves flat. I think if there was a bit more balance in the way that they played, and if they backed their kicking game more to create transition opportunities, I think the Bulls would be very difficult to beat, because that tight five, like you say, does give them field position and is very difficult to get around. I just think there needs to be more to the plan than the right hook. You know, I think there needs to be a jab or two and maybe a leg kick.
All right, and they've still got enough, though, to beat Leinster, according to you.
They're going to beat Leinster, and they're going to beat Leinster by 12 points, mate. It's going to be 34-22. Leinster at the Highveld. Yes, a very good team, Leinster, but not their best team. Altitude, weather, and travel. The Bulls put it together. Strong start does the business, and they hold on and win this one.
And you know what? We haven't even spoken about a score. My score was going to be 35-22 to the Bulls. So, and we called the same one from 2 different suburbs when it came to France winning by 16. We both said by 16 points differential against Scotland. They won by 19. We've now both said, I've said 35-20, you said 34-22. So by my calculations, the Bulls will probably win by 16. So if you are putting a flouter on, Bulls to win by 16. Okay,
Yeah.
so we got the Bulls to win. We have got the Lions to win. And we're going to talk about the Stormers in just a bit. Now, as a Durban boy who supports the Lions, who lives in Cape Town, who has an affinity for the Bulls, he must be quite confused half the time.
Extremely, mate. So the Sharks have got...
bad, eh?
That was good. That got me by surprise. The Sharks have got Zebre coming to town. Everybody thinks Zebre is a lowly team. They're at the foot of the table, obviously. But they have taken a few scalps, and they're not a long way out of the playoff contention. And what most people won't know is that aside from Leinster, who are 12-0 this season, Zebre are on form, the hottest team in the competition. They've won 3 in a row, and they're coming to Durban to do some damage.
They've won 5 out of 12. It's the first time in the club's history. They won 5. They won away from home in Belfast. They beat Ulster. And they won away from home.
They've beaten Ulster, Munster, the Dragons.
And I think they won in Scotland as well. My memory's
Edinburgh.
failing
Edinburgh.
me.
No, you're right, mate.
In
Edinburgh.
Edinburgh. They won in Edinburgh, yeah.
You're right.
So it's not failing me. Thank
You're back.
I'm back, guys. The heat's getting to me. But no, Eben.
Eben doesn't play for Zebre. Oh, you mean the Sharks?
No, Eben, last match he played was in December. John Plumtree keeps on saying it's like it's a step forward, 2 steps back. And, there's a lot of people like, Eben doesn't play for the Sharks, and he came back and he played for them in the Challenge Cup, led them brilliantly, and they won.
Really, he carried them to the title.
And they won, and that took his form and his momentum into the Test season, became the most capped player ever.
Yeah.
But if I look at the great Richie McCaw and the young gun, Will Jordan, who could go on to become one of the great outside backs in New Zealand rugby, if not world rugby. Mm-hmm. Richie McCaw also spent one good season where, after Richard Bands basically buried him, how the mighty Macau got up from that one, no one knows. But at Loftus knocked him out. He suffered with a lot of concussion issues and spent probably 6 months out of the game. And there was a fear at one stage that he wouldn't come back. But they were very conservative in his comeback. And then Will Jordan, with his concussions and vertigo and not feeling well, they also kept him on the sideline. So if it's head injuries and it's concussions, I can see the care with which the Sharks are treating Eben. And obviously from a national point of view, the gratitude that Rassie and his coaches will be showing the Sharks and thanking Plum and the boys for saying, you're not rushing a guy back, plays 30 minutes, he gets another knock, and it potentially rules him out for the rest of the international season.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, 4.5 months, it's nearly into 4 months now. It's a long time.
It is a long time.
And it's quite been under the radar in the sense that...
It's kind of been week to week, hasn't it? He could be back. No, he's not. But that's been going on for a couple of months now.
And he is training. We see him in all the pictures.
Yeah, looking in rude health, mate.
We hope it's him in those pictures. You find the original's got 3 in it, not 4. Just dropped it there. He's still got the jersey from 4 years ago. No, but I mean, selfishly, you basically just want Eben there for the Springboks, okay?
Sure.
If you're a Shark supporter, you want him there to be leading the way.
But you want him back at his best, ready to go.
Yeah, but he is the kind of player that he doesn't play for 5 months. He walks out and he's a player of the match performance.
Spot on.
Opening game. For the odd Zebre guy that does make the Italian team, you may see Eben not in Durban on Saturday, but you may see him in Durban when it comes to the test matches.
Correct.
Italy against South Africa. So without Eben, but the rest are starting to come back. The Sharks are starting to kind of get most of their players back.
Yeah. And they've got those young guns. Ethan Hooker, Jerenza Julius doing great things there. They're the story.
Yeah, I mean, Ethan Hooker, you want to see him in the midfield, but at the moment, you also want to see Julius and you want to see Lakanya the old general, and I call him old, and the guy's not even basically 30, but the veteran with those young guns. And Hooker just looks so strong and competent on the wing. I think ultimately he will finish at 12 or 13 in his career. But just to have a power striker like that on the wing, and with Yen and Mapimpi, Makazole Mapimpi, Apele Fassi still to come back from injury. Just the firepower they've got. You've got a Jordan Hendricks there, plays at 10 or at 15. Jaden at 9. Andre the Giant. Come on, they should be winning the Champions Cup. They should be winning the URC. They should definitely be winning the Challenge Cup this year.
They should definitely be beating Zebre.
They should be beating Zebre, and I think they're going to beat Zebre, and they're going to beat them by 20 points.
That's exactly what I was going to say. What's your score?
40 points to 20.
I had 38-18, mate.
Oh,
no jokes.
I love it.
No jokes.
I love it. We don't even talk about this beforehand.
38-18, that's what I had.
We don't even talk about this beforehand because
incredible, mate.
Because if we did, I would probably know where things are. Who was playing where.
That's what I was going to tell you, mate. You spoke about the Scarlets earlier on. They're not based in Swansea, mate. For an Oak who says he's 13% Welsh, I'm a little bit disappointed. As Scott Gibbs always says, mate, failure to plan is planning to fail. Does he say it like that? I think it was something like that.
No, he says, fail to prepare.
Fail to prepare.
Prepare to fail.
Okay, so the Scarlets play Llanelli. Ospreys play...
The double L is Llanelli.
Okay. Another glass of Coke. I'm getting a bit thirsty.
I once watched the All Blacks. I think they beat Llanelli 11-0. It was in the early 80s. But at that ground, when the wind blew, you basically play the whole match 10 meters from your own try line with into the wind, and then with the wind you play 10 minutes from the other try line. It was just insane. When Wales still had proper clubs, not manufactured regions.
Oh!
That one will get them talking in the
We're talking for
valleys.
another 2 hours.
But so yeah, we figured out Jack Morgan, who we like as a player. It's very
And
good.
as a rom.
Yeah, as a rum as well, and a rum and a coke. I figured out that he doesn't play for Cardiff, but maybe Cardiff should be looking at him. And I've also figured out that the Stormers, who will get their tour off to a very good start, I figured out where they will be playing this weekend.
Yes.
And that is in Swansea, when they play for the Scarlets. Is that right?
No, Clanackley.
Clanackley. Why did Dobbo tell me he's on his way to Swansea? Oh, Dobbo.
He's going to miss the game.
Dobbo hit the wrong ground. So at Clanackley, the Scarlets and Ospreys.
Play
Yeah.
in Swansea.
Jeez, though, Dobbo doesn't pitch up for the Ospreys game.
Mate, got a better chance of beating them, though.
No? Well, better than they did in Cape Town that time. Terrible. But the big talking point, jeez, and we've been waiting a while to say Damian, Willemse,
Mate,
and Sacha FM
they're back.
in the same lineup on the same day. Wow.
Yeah.
Jeez,
Fabulous.
must be music to Dobbo's ears.
I think he's been waiting a while for this one.
I mean, no BJ Dixon, big blow there. As I keep on telling people, should never shook his hand like that, mate. Dislocated his wrist. Came
I
in,
thought he was smiling. He was obviously grimacing.
grimacing in pain. He said, "Oh, your guns are as big as it's like." Dobbo, what has Zels done to BJ? I don't know. I think he's
Man,
dislocated.
I actually cracked my neck looking up at him. He was so tall.
No, he's a lot bigger than one thinks.
Yeah, that's what
Okay.
people say whenever they meet us, mate.
Exactly, eh? But we have big hearts.
Yeah, we do.
But BJ Dixon's out. But for the rest, and obviously Neetland for sure, he's on parenting duty.
Yep.
Welcoming a little pup into the world.
Yes.
So big shout out to Neetland for
Yep.
sure, one of our favorite players on his new edition, and then he'll be replacing. I think he may be replacing France, or he may be joining France, or the rest. I think he is going on tour. That's
Eventually,
the word.
yeah. After this week, he'll go.
He'll go for the Belfast game.
Yeah.
So the prop resources will be there. But just to get Marnie back again, that will be great. Then you can see Sacha potentially play at 12, Marnie at 10, Damian at 15, Warwick on the wing, Damian at 12, Sacha on fly-off, Marnie coming off the bench, Warwick at 15. Then you're starting to get options going again. Johnny Roach should come through in the latter part. I think he's got such immense talent.
Yep, agreed.
But the key there, Salman Marat is playing very well. As I've mentioned in the other show, when Dobbo sent me all his stats from the season, and I sent it out to a couple of guys who had asked on email, what does Dobbo see in him? What does Rasta see in him? They're like, wow, this guy does an incredible amount of work. So and that's why his teammates rate him so highly. He's there. And then obviously Brannes, as we spoke at length about him earlier. I just think if they mentally switched on, they have to win this game. They're a team that hasn't done their talent justice when they've been on the road, especially up north. They struggled for wins. They've kind of come home and been like these giants at home, the Stormers. And I always say they remind me of some of the better bull sides in the early days of Super Rugby, is that they were granite at home and they turned to a bit of putty when they went on the road.
Yeah.
And I just hope that's not the case in the next fortnight, that this is the kickstart to them coming on that Munster-type surge, winning 6 in a row, getting into the playoffs as the form team and causing some serious damage in the playoffs. They've got a good enough squad. All the injured superstars are coming back at the right time.
Yeah, I think that's definitely true. I'm very excited to see how they go. One thing we know about radio is you can literally plug him in and push play, and it's like he was never missed any time. Every time that guy gets a shot, he does something insane, magical playmaker, clutch. And I think he's going to boost the Stormers massively. And then obviously Damian Willemse is a guy who's won 2 World Cups, kind of knows how to win games, great decision maker. Adds massive value to what the way the Stormers want to play and executing their plan so that they score points. So I think the Stormers are going to benefit greatly from the two of them. I've got the Stormers to win this one by 5 points.
I've also got the Stormers. Give me your score. I've got the Stormers to win. That's I said 4 from 4 in the beginning in terms of the South African teams. Give me your Stormers score.
24-19.
Okay, I'm going to give them a little bit more comfort. I've got them to win 34-19 by 15 points. I've got Sacha to play 60 minutes plus and to be a superstar. Sacha FM, this is your game. You've been chomping at the bit to get out there. He has the Midas touch. Everything he touches turns to gold.
Yes.
I just don't want anyone to touch him.
Yeah, exactly.
Leave him alone.
Zero contact.
He's like our Dan Carter.
Yeah.
You don't tackle him, okay, mate?
Exactly.
Remember Andrew Hall when he tackled Dan Carter and he got penalised? Or Ma Nana tackled Dan Carter and he got penalised and he's... What's that? He's Carter off the limits. You're not allowed to tackle him, mate.
Damn right.
Good old Hurricanes, Crusaders, Derby. He's Carter off the list. And there's Graham Henry still saying, yes, we need him for the
We
test.
still have to explain
Andrew
this to
Hall
you.
coming in with a little stiff arm there.
Love it.
You know, those guys that national aspirations get put to one side when it comes to those derby matches.
Correct.
But yeah, Sacha he's had so many issues with injuries in every different part of his body. You just want to see him go 80 minutes. And even when he was so badly injured against the Sharks, when he got injured at kickoff, basically, thumped into the ground, sternum gone, shoulder gone, he still managed to create one or two magical moments.
Yeah.
Basically on one leg, one arm, and with one rib.
Correct.
So
He just needs to learn not to play every game like it's a World Cup final. I suppose it's quite a tough line for massive competitors like that to have a longer term view to how they go into collisions and things. But I think that's something that comes with age. Kids generally come on the scene bulletproof. Once they get injured, they realize, okay, wait, we need to choose our battles, choose our fights. So I think maybe Sacha's at that point now in his career where he understands some of the implications.
Well, I think maybe just from being on the sidelines and watching his teammates play, and
Correct.
you know, you come on the scene, you're 20 and you're the sensation. You look again, you're 23 and you've had a few injuries, and it's like, hang on a second. I think that kind of matures of any player.
Yeah.
But you know, you look at Jean de Villiers in the beginning of his career. He had so many injuries in the first 2 years, and it's like he got it all out of his system, and then he basically went the best part of 10 years without an injury.
Yeah.
Got to play over 100 Test matches, so many matches, a centurion for the Stormers. Kind of went and even spent a season at Munster, in Limerick and Cork. He was very popular there. I don't think he played that much.
Yeah.
I think he went to Leicester Tigers, and I think he played 24 minutes. That's what he did over there. They still show him the jersey to show that he was at the club. I think he takes that well, Jean de Villiers. But yeah, I mean, Sacha, special player. Damian Willemse is the one that, after the World Cup, 2023, it's Damian Willemse. It's the hottest property in world rugby. And again, bedeviled with injuries. Just came back, outstanding against Munster, took on the goal kicking responsibilities, banged everything over at the DHL Stadium. Boom, groin goes on his way to scoring a try against Glasgow the next week. You just want to see Damian get an extended run as well. He is so important to the success of the Stormers, and he's such an integral part to the Springboks. And he missed a big part of last season with the Boks. Because of injury, and you just don't want him to miss another season with the Boks, because it is very easy to become a forgotten player in a very successful squad.
Very much so.
And you know, you look at out of sight, out of mind, and Apele Fassi took his chance very well when he got given a gap. But he had that great game at Ellis Park against the All Blacks. Sacha had a great game at 10. And people were like, forget Damian, forget Andre. And I'm like, whoa, easy there. Easy with that rhetoric. Easy, okay, easy. We never forget those two guys, okay? But the public have that kind of thing of just... Well, yeah, more common sense coming from there. You heard it right from the horse's mouth.
Damon.
But Damian Willemse... to me,
Yeah.
like just a guy who's done it at the biggest, on the biggest stage, the youngest ever double World Cup winner, just a superstar. And to have the likes of him and Sacha in one backline, they would walk into any backline in world rugby and in club rugby. I'm talking test team or club team, regardless of the league. That's the gift that the DHL Stormers, that's the gift that Dobbo has in Cape Town with those guys. And they are both homegrown talents. Paul Rus Gymnasium, Paul Rus Gymnasium, and then Bishop's Dyerson's College. And they were both superstar 10s for their school, for their province, and for South Africa.
10s, you say, eh?
10s. Dave P. Willemse was, you know, Jordan Chai played for Sachs at the time. He made SAA school, and Dave P. made the... Jordan Chai, his dad, Anton Chai, played for Province, and then kind of went on to play a couple of games. The Sharks went over and played in the Major League Rugby in the States. There was a whole thing when he didn't make the province team, and he made the province B team, sorry, and then it was like, if this guy can't make the province A team, there must be one hell of a good fly-off who is the starting fly-off. He was. His name was Damian Willemse, so it kind of coincided. Yeah. And obviously Sacha, just sensation, like the closest we've seen to something like a Herschel Gibbs at Bishops, and then playing in the under 16, under 18s, into the under 20s, and a great leader, a captain in the side. So, wow, we just haven't seen those two guys operate in tandem, and we also haven't seen a situation too often where you've got a Mani Lebok fit, you've got a Damian fit, and you've got a Sacha fit. Dobbers had to do without those three superstars for most of the season. The fact he's 5 from 12 and still pushing, well done, bro. Well done.
And he's chosen a good year to do it, because the congestion on the table means 1 or 2 wins changes the whole picture.
Yeah, we did have a chat earlier. 12 out of 18 wins kind of got you into the playoffs. And I always felt, looking at how teams had improved, and every team's got stronger with the exception of the Dragons, unfortunately, who are like rooted to the bottom of the table. But 15 to 8, there's, I think, a league win in it. Huh?
Totally.
And it kind of like said to him, like, I think 10 out of 18 wins gets you into the playoff. It doesn't get you a home playoff, but it gets you into the playoffs. And then you rely on maybe someone knocking, because the big one there obviously is Leinster. Can someone go to Dublin and knock them over? And a team like the Bulls did and proved that they could. Munster went there and won there. So they are vulnerable to a certain type of opponent, a certain type of game plan. But once in the playoffs, the whole season starts again. And you said it earlier in the week, the Stormers are alive and kicking. And regardless of what happens on tour, you'd like to think they can get 2 wins. They do have that luxury of 4 home games.
Yep.
And those games are against teams you'd expect them to beat.
Yeah, definitely. I expect the Stormers to make a strong finish to the season. I'm quite keen to see how they manage having 4 very creative playmakers in Sacha, Mani, Damian, and Warwick Gelant. How they feature those guys. You've mentioned them maybe on a rotation thing where they swap positions. I've said it before, I'll say it again. I'd love to see Gaza in the midfield, close to the ball, playing on the game line. I think he gives them massive value there. And that potentially takes some of the pressure off trying to find spaces for these guys. Obviously, Mani and Sacha are 2 guys that can lead at 10, and Warwick is a guy I think most comfortable at fullback, and who probably is the kind of player who should start games more than come off the bench to kind of do his magic. So I'm going to be interested to see how that all plays out, but definitely a downhill schedule that makes them potentially coast into the playoffs there.
Do you see, I'm going to throw this one out at you,
yeah.
Mani and Sacha offered, who are you playing at 10?
You asked the wrong bloke that question, mate. I love Sacha. I think he's phenomenal. I think he's the future. And I think he, injuries aside, is going to be the guy that has the higher floor of the 2 options. I think Mani could potentially shoot the lights out and win you the game all on his own, but he could also have an off day with the boot and cost you the game.
But why do you say you've asked the wrong guy?
Well, just because I think the general public, obviously Mani's a superstar. He's been involved in a World Cup winning team, and he's done some phenomenal things on a rugby field. I think the general sentiment is Mani should be the guy. I just feel like Sacha is the future and probably the right now as well.
Do you see them going, if they all fit, Mani 10, Sacha 12, Damian 15, Sacha 15, Damian 12, Mani 10 to accommodate all 3? Or do you say you've actually got to make a choice? When I say that, I mean, Warwick can interchange between wing and fullback, and he's been their best back all season, Warwick Gelant.
Exactly.
Do you then say you either start with Mani or you start with Sacha and the other one's on the bench, or do you say, how do we get all 4 of those talents into a backline?
Yeah.
As a coach, what do you do?
Yeah, so I'm not saying I'm right on this. This is just my opinion. I remember the Wallabies try to put 10 playmakers in the backline all together. All fantastic players, but it doesn't work.
Didn't they win a World Cup?
Well, yeah, but they also had some big struggles there, especially after that World Cup. Things went south for those Wallabies. And I think you have to have a Rod Kafer in your backline. You have to have a guy who maybe isn't super exciting, but does go forward and does the hard stuff.
So who's that guy?
So for me, I think you have to go Sacha or Mani at 10, and Warwick has to start at fullback. I don't think Warwick is a guy who can be in and out of the lineup. I don't think you get the best out of him like that. I think he's a guy who very much needs to be entrusted with the 15 jersey to get the best out of him. And for me, I think Gaza is electric. With the less time he has to think, the more outstanding he is. You put him in traffic, he can make anyone miss. Great pass, great speed for a guy in that position, and I think his physicality is underrated. So I would install Damian. He would be the guy I play at 12, and Warwick at fullback, and I'd let the other 2 fight it out for 10.
And Mani off the bench?
Yeah, so potentially Marnie is off the bench and Sacha starts. I mean, occasionally you could have Marnie come on and Sacha go to 12 and Willemse comes off. But in the main, I would have Willemse at 12. I think Dan du Plessis could cover 13 very nicely. And I'd have Warwick Galant at the back.
What do you rate as Damian's best position, 10, 12 or 15?
So I'm a sucker for him at 10. I like a physical 10. I think he adds massive value there. But in the framework of what the Stormers have got and the options that they have there, I think Sacha is long-term their best option at 10. And then for me, I would play Damian at 12. I think he is physical enough at 12 and creative enough to unlock the backline. So I think he'd be an excellent option at 12.
And Dan Dup showing good form.
Oh,
He was off for a long time as
He's
well.
their Rod Kafer, isn't he?
Yeah.
Great
I mean,
man.
and Ruan before that as well.
Spot on.
And kind of unfortunate again. A lot of injuries for Ruan. Father time not on his side, not in that position either. Where it kind of does seem to be a bit of a younger man's game. The closer you are in the backs towards the scrum. But it's a nice kind of headache for Dobbo to have in a season like contemplating when Marnie comes back in the next couple of weeks, where do I put him as opposed to who do I pick? Because that's been, and with no disrespect to Yuri Mateo, who came in and he did particularly well in that Bulls game.
Yeah.
Conditions that suited his style of play, very good kicking game, kicking over 80% in the URC and Champions Cup matches, one of the highest when off the tee.
Yeah.
Kicked a big pressure kick in that win again at Loftus. But wow, I mean, just to think you've got three talents like Marnie, like Sacha and Damian. You would never think you're going to lose all three within like 2 weeks.
No. And the Stormers' plan is built around guys like that. Guys who can play, make, and create and do some magic. So when you shove in a youngster who isn't necessarily the same sort of archetype player, it doesn't really work. You know, like a guy like Yuri Mateo could probably fit in quite well at the Lions and even in the Bulls plan. But with the Stormers kind of need those drivers to make the big decisions on the fly, and that's not really Yuri Mateo's strength, I wouldn't say.
All right, and then if you're looking at all our teams at the moment, and we're looking box selection, and we've seen the 80 players that Rusty's identified, you know who his kind of preferred 23 is, you know who's kind of second cab off the rank. The one area, and for him to go public and make his announcement, that he's seen Deon Fourie very much as a hooker, and not necessarily as a blindside flank who plays to open side flank who plays to the ball. That you saying to the likes of, and Joe Dweeb is going overseas, he's going to Exeter. They announced that this week. You're looking at a JJ Kotze down here, Andre Juchefent, who's been in the Bok mix. You got a test cap in Bloemfontein. You're looking at Ethan Bester playing alongside Bongi. Then you got Akker, you got Grobbies at the Bulls. You got the guy that everyone raves about, the guy with a great neck, Jan Hendrik Wessels.
Yeah.
I mean, hooker, prop. The Lions, possibly the one team where we're not talking hookers that are potentially going to play for the Springboks. But a big match for those guys at the moment, because you know Malcolm Marx is there. And he was, by the way, a player of the match in Japan's League One the last weekend. Came back in, outstanding, played off the bench. Bongi, fit, will always be there, and they know Deon obviously does that thing. And Marco van Staden, Rusty's also rated as someone who could play there. So hooker is going to be, over the next 6 weeks, a position that guys aren't just playing to win for their franchises. They're playing to make a statement to Rusty, to Deon Davids.
Totally.
To say, listen here, to Don Heeman, I'm good enough to start any test for the Boks, and they play 15 tests and they match against the Barbarians.
Yeah, totally. And I think between Deon Fourie and Jan Hendrik Wessels, they both have that utility, versatility factor that Rusty really places a premium on. Two guys that can fill in and pretty much play across the pack. So I think that gives them an advantage. I'm excited about the Sharks youngster, Ethan Bester. I think he's going to put his stake in the ground. I think people are going to remember his name this season at some point. You've got the two veterans that are world-class players. The question is, can they make it to 2027 in their current form, and how vulnerable will they be to injuries? And yeah, Akker van der Merwe is a veteran guy who right now you could probably plug in with the experience he has, an explosive athlete, a grizzled, been there, done it, battle-hardened kind of player. For me, I want to see Andre Juchefent and JJ Kotze play more. We need to get answers on those guys, and they need to be regular players on Saturday. So the more we see of them, the sooner we can get some answers around that. But certainly it's going to be a tight battle for for Russie's attention to make the sort of depth chart at hooker this season.
All right, so we got the 4 wins for South Africa. We're unanimous on that.
Yeah.
There's top 14 that's back on the scene. In England, I think they're playing a league. It's called the Premiership.
Yeah. What's left of it?
What's left of it. Japan League One, a lot of South African interest there.
Yeah.
You can follow that on SA Rugby Magazine, the SAFA wrap on a Monday. You and your boys always give a wonderful wrap of who's doing what from the South African teams abroad. And then Super Rugby Pacific, it's going off there at the moment. But in New Zealand, the big one, it doesn't matter where they rank in the league standings. It's the Blues against the Crusaders.
Yes, it
the
is.
Blues are one from 5, I think it is. They are the defending champions. The Crusaders, who missed out for the first time in about a decade for the playoffs last year under Rob Penny, they've started well. They've only lost 1. Last week, they scored 9 tries against the Western Force in Christchurch. I think it was Christchurch. It was somewhere down south that they played.
Yeah.
Zebre, he's 2 tries away from being the all-time leading scorer in Super Rugby. He's on the 1 win. And Macasprina, mate. What a name.
Mate, 5 tries last week, and the reward he gets is he's on the pine this week, mate. Didn't make the starting lineup for the Crusaders. Apparently, Penny's got a rotation policy that Macca Springer suffered from. Apparently, he wasn't even in the match day 23. They had to do a bit of a reshuffle, and that opened up a gap for him on the wood. So,
well, if you know
insane.
New Zealand and the tall poppy syndrome, they probably just want to keep him grounded.
Keep him humble, mate.
Can't let him go out and score another 5.
Can you imagine what they do?
So that's the big one to watch. I love Super Rugby. Zels says it's popcorn, but it's cool popcorn.
It's great
popcorn. And butter popcorn, salt and vinegar popcorn. But great rugby to watch. Apparently it's a top 6, not a top 8 playoffs. I was corrected on that.
Okay.
Thanks for that. We really appreciate it. Our newsletter comes out this week. Will be coming out twice a week, every Monday, every Thursday. Got any questions, you fire it away to us in the YouTube comments. You can mail me, Keo at keo.co.za. If you want us to address in the newsletter or on the show. Schools Rugby is back. Tace Lombard again. He's the guy. Wonderful video and photos that he took in the Western Cape specifically. They had the big open day that they normally used to have at Newlands for the schools. They play 20 minutes aside, no conversions, a select amount of schools. It was supposed to be at the DHL Stadium. They're doing work on the pitch, so they went out to the Darnie Craven last night. And, yep, it was business as usual. Paul Boys High 15, sack 0. Paul Boys High 15, sack 0. Paul Jim 15, Rondebosch 15.
Wow.
3 tries apiece.
We spoke them up,
Yeah,
mate.
Bishop's 145-0. And then in the big one, Paul Russ, main game at the end of the evening, they 20-0 winners against Stellenbosch High. That's 4 tries. Wow. So it's all starting. The festivals will start in the next couple of weeks. Schools rugby from all over South Africa. We're going to always keep entertained on what's going on in the schools scene. But if you do go on X, Tace Lombard in the Western Cape takes amazing pictures. He's always at the schools games. Our schools rugby, it's the fibre. It's the fibre. And again, we said it early in the week. We'll say it again. It's your mates. You train there all the time. But a big shout out to Hammies, Hamilton's Rugby Club in Greenpoint, 150 years old. Does that make them the oldest club in South Africa?
Correct, mate. The oldest club.
And the best?
The best. I mean, obviously.
So you coach the under-20s, huh?
Coached their seconds and under 20s, yeah. Yeah, over the couple of seasons. Interesting times. Great squad at that point. We had Johan Laram as the head coach, the SVD coach, and massive financial input. I think some of the guys that played for me in the seconds were, former pros, guys like Stephen Hall and Antonius Verhoeven, Blitzbach player. So some great talent there.
And if you want to see Zels twice a week, he's down there. He plays 6-touch. Apparently, he's a feisty guy on the field. I'd say
Too feisty, mate.
You see a different kind of animal to the
Yes.
one you see on the Keo Zels show. Very friendly guy. Hi, how's it? It's not like that on the field. Not if you drop a ball, if you don't make the pass when you should. Zels always like a chatting. We got the long weekend. I'm going to be in Arniston. You're going to be away up the West Coast somewhere.
Beautiful.
If we bump into you, come say how's it. Keep on supporting your teams. A South African weekend, 4 from 4. And watch that game. Crusaders against the Blues. I've got the Crusaders to win, even though it's in Auckland. And watch for a guy, Macca Springer, who's going to come off the bench and score not 5 tries, but at least 1 5-pointer.